got a feeling, a great feeling from Jimmy Lakey. Jimmy Lakey in the morning makes me feel alive. Woke me up this morning, now I'm up and on my way. Oh, 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 yeah, what a great way to start your day, the Lakey way.
Well, that'd be me, right? Jimmy Lakey. I'm singing my name. I said, I guess I better jump on the stage here. Somebody's waiting to see me. Good to have all of you here on the program. It's Friday, Friday the 26th. Just in case you're wondering, wanting to know. The 26th day of September, year of our Lord, 2025. And again, Friday, happy Friday, everybody. How's everybody doing today? I'm feeling good. I just watched all morning. I was watching Benjamin Netanyahu excoriate the United Nations and tell them that they're a bunch of worthless countries that don't stand up to countries that want to destroy all of us, and they want to get random estate rather than punishment. Watched Netanyahu say all that. That was a good speech. What else did I watch this morning? Oh, I watched all the coverage of James Comey getting indicted. How many of you were actually surprised? There had been rumors that there would be an indictment, but was anybody actually surprised that it happened? I was, I guess, kind of shocked because we hear about it going to happen. Then they waited till the last minute. The statute of limitations on the charges they charged him with would have expired on Tuesday, and they got him. And it's only like a 2-page indictment. Even a simple fellow like me can read it. And it's basically said, you said to Congress that you did not authorize any leaking of classified material to the press, to the media. And everybody else says you did. And then later on, you said you did, but under oath, you said you did not. So that's a lie. That's obstruction of justice when the Congress and the committees were trying to find something out in oversight. And it's also just a lie. So they got him on 2 counts, and we shall see what happens. I guess there's a question. It's not really a question of the day, but I throw that out there for those of you in the in the chat rooms out there, wherever you're at. I want to remind you that you can always comment on the portion of the program that you like to. If you're on any of our Facebook pages that we stream on, any of the Rumbles, YouTube, that shows up here. What was your reaction when you heard that? You know, I don't rejoice that anybody's going to be punished. I don't want James. I want the best for James Comey. You know, try to be gracious, but the guy obviously was doing some very nefarious things during his tenure at the FBI. And I heard it said that I listened to a former agent of the FBI that worked with James Comey. He might have been an attorney in the FBI. I don't remember his title. But he said when Comey first took office as the FBI director, we had high hopes that he might be someone that we would be proud of. And yet... he says, as it went along, we saw him telling little lies in oversight and not telling the truth. And we said, this is not good. And then I heard a little bit further analysis as to James Comey. If you recall the July, right before the 2016 election, James Comey came out and listed all the high crimes and misdemeanors and felonies that Hillary Rodham Kinkles Clinton had committed. And then at the very end, he says, but no reasonable prosecutor would ever prosecute these high crimes and misdemeanors and felonies. So we're going to move on. First of all, that wasn't his spot to do that. That was Attorney General Loretta Lynch was supposed to do that. So people are going, wait, constitutionally, how are you making this decision? Shouldn't the Attorney General make this decision back in 2016? Anybody remember that day? Well, the Democrats were outraged at James Comey that they thought he might have sabotaged or tanked the hopes of Hillary Clinton. James Comey, thinking that he's more self-righteous and better, thought that he could go out there, pretend, and he doesn't, pretend that he has the wisdom of Solomon and kind of split the baby in half and it would all work out. Well, it did not work. It did not work on at all. It made the Democrats mad. So some speculation is because of his narcissistic, needing approval personality, he felt like he had betrayed some people that kind of liked him, and he didn't like Trump. And so suddenly he finds himself in a room with Obama. He finds himself in a room with high people in the Democrat Party talking about this Russian collusion thing. And he says, well, I can run with that, and it will get me back in good graces with these people who are now pissed off at me. It also, my friends, I have to tell you this, that they also They also they also had a problem at home, meaning his home, his family. He had a daughter and a wife that were known Trump haters. They were right after the inauguration. If you remember in 2016 election, 2017 inauguration, they had that hat where all the women wear the pussycat hats and walked around and pretended that they were offended by Donald Trump or whatever. Well, Comey's wife and Comey's daughter were there speaking rabid and vitriolic things about Comey. And so Comey got a lot of pressure, and it was the analysis was it probably was not within his personality type to be able to withstand the pressures that come at you as an FBI director and to not be a straight shooter. So anyway, Comey has doubled down over and over again that he did not leak classified information. A lot of folks did, and then he also admitted that he did leak classified information to his friend from Colombia that went to the New York Times. So that's the charge. They say it's a very narrow charge. It's a very simple charge. And the left goes apoplectic and was, oh my God, this is political vengeance. Can you believe this? It is so funny that they suddenly start to cry free speech when Jimmy Kimmel gets fired, but say nothing about Gina Carano, say nothing about Rosie, say nothing about those of us that were deplatformed and shut down during COVID. They never cried free speech about that. And now they're saying the justice system is weaponized. Trump is going after his enemies. Can I put up this photo here and remind you? The libs are losing their minds. How dare they indict James Comey? And yet look at all the allies of Donald Trump that ended up going to the pokey or ended up getting indicted at least because they were affiliated with Donald Trump. And so it is amazing that the left doesn't want to remember any of these faces, any of these mugshots there, and all the things they did. There's congressman people on there. There's advisors. There's low-ranking attorneys there. There's all sorts of people in that little ring of fire that you see on the screen. But guess what? The left never, ever, ever cried about weaponization of the never, ever, ever cried about the weaponization of the justice system in that photo. They never, ever did that. So we shall see how it all pans out with James Comey. And by the way, don't forget, I'm going to keep that photo up there. I'm looking to see, is Steve Bannon in that photo list? I don't believe he is. And also Peter Navarro. They both went to jail. They went to jail because the fake January the 6th committee brought them in to testify, and they said, we're not going to come in. They could have gone in and pled the fifth, but they did not want to lend legitimacy to the January the 6th committee, which was kind of a fake committee anyway, and they ended up going to prison for that for a period of time. So anyway, the libs are losing their minds over the indictment of James Comey, and they say, how dare they indict James Comey? And yet look at the screen, my friends. You will find that they have never bothered to cry free speech when Roseanne gets fired, Gina Carano, so many other things, but they cry when Jimmy Kimmel gets canned for a week, and they never seem to cry free speech when all of this was happening that you see on your screen. I saw this poetic piece posted out by Elon Musk this morning. This is not the meme roulette section. This is just Jimmy's personal collection that I maintained. And this was on the beach, I guess. President Trump was walking around. Remember James Comey used to take walks on the beach and find very, very interesting rock formations, right? Remember that? Well, evidently Donald Trump was on a beach stroll recently, and Elon says he was cool. He came across this very unique beach formation of rocks. And as you can see, miraculously, like James Comey found rocks that said, 8647. Look, Donald Trump ran across some rock formations that say FAFO. It is amazing how beautiful nature is when you go strolling it and just how things appear out of the rock formation. So there's Donald Trump playing in the sand, and he just found this rock formation, FAFO, same way that James Comey found his rock formation several months ago. Obnoxious Scott points out something very good here, that on the photo list that I just put up there, General Flynn is also not up there. James Comey personally, by his own admission, used unprecedented tactics, kind of an old buddy trickeration to get General Flynn, and they ended up indicting him and sending him away. So there is there's a double standard, and if you say it on the show, say it with me. If the American left did not have double standards, they would not have any standards at all. Again, just look in the last 14 days, we have a case study as to their mental derangement and their intellectual bankruptcy. You have Charlie Kirk gets snuffed out for the rest of his life, unable to raise his kids, unable to speak freely anymore. And they, well, it must be MAGA people. They don't like they do that. And yet they don't talk about the free speech aspect. They don't fight for free speech, fight for discourse and political conversation. They don't fight for any of that at all, do they? No. They just kind of dismiss it and poo-poo it and keep calling people Nazis and jackbooted thugs, etc. Jimmy Kimmel gets a little slap on the wrist, a little suspension, and it is a free speech battle like our founding fathers might have never, ever, ever known. Again, these people are intellectually bankrupt and they cannot see their hypocrisy. And again, freaking out about James Comey indictment. I don't like seeing it. I really don't want to be a government in a country to where every time somebody else gets in office, there's a new round of indictments. I don't want to be there. But the truth is we're led here, and here we are. And just to play, if you recall, do anybody remember this when Donald Trump was elected in 2016? All of his rallies had been, and I was at several of his rallies, and at the RNC convention in Cleveland, all of those things that were people chanting, lock her up, lock her up. And James Comey had laid out the case of how you could prosecute Hillary Rodham Clinton, but he said that there's no reasonable prosecutor that would pursue this prosecution. So James Comey and the Justice Department had already lined out the prosecutable offenses of Hillary Rodham Clinton. They had laid out the case, but drawn a conclusion that nobody wants to bring this prosecution. So Donald Trump and his Department of Justice had the ability. They already had the work done for them. The investigations had already happened. James Comey had laid out the pathwork forward, and they could have just prosecuted Hillary Rodham Clinton. They would have found a prosecutor that would take it. Well, Donald Trump said, no, let's put bygones be bygones. He, in good faith and good measure, decided not to prosecute his political enemy, even though there was probably some clear violation of what Hillary Rodham Clinton had done. So Donald Trump did not take the first swing at this weaponizing, if you call it that, the justice system. Donald Trump tried to let bygones be bygones, and he chose not to prosecute Hillary. He kind of backed down off a campaign frenzy cry when there was a promise of lock her up, and he tried to move merrily along. And suddenly, as he does, you've got Michael Flynn being put up in the pokey. You got Bannon. You got all these people being indicted. And Donald Trump came to town and he tried to play nice. And now it's not about playing mean or dirty. It's just like, you know what? If you're going to find petty things and come after us, James Comey did some bad things. He lied before Congress. And if Congress is going to have the purse strings and the oversight ability of the executive branch, you cannot go to Congress and lie and just kind of not give answers. Now, evidently, I was reading some that the FBI directors for many years have lied about certain things, and the Congress has never felt like they could get answers out of these organizations. And, maybe this is a step in the right direction for Congress to be able to get people that are under testimony to give the right answers and at least not lie. And if we need to do behind closed session, it's also interesting that this is a leak prosecution. They're prosecuting him for leaking. And I heard it said that Washington, D.C. is filled with leakers. So I guess the question is, if you're leaking something, you better, if asked under oath in Congress, you better tell people that you leaked it or confess to it, because if you don't lie under oath if you get called into Congress, just don't do it. All right, your thoughts on it. Your thoughts on James Comey, your reactions to it. I've heard two different stories. I've heard that he's handing himself in today to get cuff stuff photoed or whatever. And then I heard there's something else on like October the 9th. So I'm not sure exactly what the order of it is. President Trump is coming out with a statement now that says this is not revenge. This is he lied, and he's being prosecuted for that. And now will the American media, will MSNBC, CNN, will they come out and say, well, maybe he lied, maybe there's something to it? No, they're all focused on the political prosecution that they think this is, and this must be revenge for Donald Trump. And none of them are giving Mary even a glance at the fact that, okay, what is he being accused of, and is it true? I saw, at least on Fox News last night, when I switched it into breaking news and watched the replay of it, because I wasn't at home at my television when the news was breaking. I was out and about. I went back and watched the breaking news, and it's interesting. They showed the tapes. This is probably the section of testimony that got him in trouble. This is a subsequent contradiction, and they laid it all out. I'm guessing, and I have not seen it. Maybe you have. But CNN, MSNBC are not showing those same pieces of evidence. Instead, they're going, as I said, apoplectic, that this is revenge, this is weaponization, as opposed to daring to look at the evidence of the case. And that's the country and the nation and the state of affairs that we live in. All right, what else do I have to? Oh, speaking of the FBI, here's a fun story for you. January the 6th, almost 5 years ago, right? We had what they called the insurrection. And turns out, my friends, that this was could have been called a Fedsurrection. It has been lied about. This is what makes you wonder if Christopher Wray is also not going to go down in a blaze of glory here real soon. He was the director of the FBI, and he was asked under oath, I think just last year, hey, did the FBI have any people in plain clothes? And he parsed his words very carefully to where he could kind of say, well, I didn't say they had this, I had that. He really chose his words carefully. Well, now the story is out that appears that James Comey could have a very familiar cellmate, according to the Gateway Pundit, when he is sent to prison for lying under oath. FBI former director Chris Wray lied and lectured House Republicans for accusing the FBI of planting informants, operatives, and agents inside the crowd of Trump supporters on January the 6th, 2021. Let me give you more details. Maybe you remember, in a bold statement that directly contradicts multiple official sources, FBI director at the time, Christopher Wray, testified in 2023 that, quote, he does, quote, not believe that undercover agents were present at the U.S. Capitol on January the 6th, 2021. Wray's statement came during a tense exchange with Representative Andy Biggs of Arizona, who specifically asked about how many undercover agents in the Capitol vicinity on that infamous day, sir. And Wray responded, I'm not sure there were undercover agents on the scene. As I sit right here, I don't believe there were undercover agents on the scene. Wray stated he could not provide a figure. He didn't believe anybody was there. Biggs wrote on Twitter that Wray will be held accountable for this lie. Now, I'm guessing Christopher Wray will try to cover himself in the nuance of, I don't believe, or he will say that these people were not actually agents. They were assets and informants, but they're not officially agents because an agent is a different title for someone in the FBI. But Andy Biggs tweeted out last night, Wray will be held accountable for this lie. He says the claim has been debunked, and including by the former U.S. Capitol Police and the FBI, and everybody's conforming that on the Thursday night, last night, the FBI finally acknowledged that it had 274 plainclothes agents roaming in the crowds on January the 6th at the Capitol. This was hundreds of more than were previously admitted to or talked about. The Blaze is reporting a senior congressional source said the number is not necessarily a surprise, since the FBI often embeds counter-surveillance personnel at large events. But given the FBI's until now steadfast refusal to disclose the level of presence at the Capitol, the figures might still be viewed with skepticism in some quarters, according to The Blaze. The news comes in the wake of claims by the U.S. Justice Department office that the Inspector General that the FBI had no undercover personnel in the January the 6th. The truth is they did. Everybody's been trying to cover up. And if you know that James Comey had already started corrupting and bastardizing the purpose of the organization known as the FBI, and Christopher Wray seemed to be just as dirty of a shark as a snake as Comey, makes you wonder about those incidents that happened that maybe were instigated by operatives in the crowd. The Gateway Pundit has previously, catch this, identified 20 different incidents that involve state, federal, and local government operators who infiltrated the crowds. In other words, some of the rabble-rousing that was going on, some of the antagonizing was going on, has been proven to be the antagonization was coming from people that were, let's say, working for the feds, but not admitting that they were working for the feds. So rather than an insurrection, it looks like maybe the truth is you had a Fedsurrection on January the 6th. I wonder if we'll get all those January 6th committee members out there and ask them why they did not investigate, why they didn't double down on this Fedsurrection that happened on January the 6th. I think it's a very, very, very fair question. All right, coming up on the program this morning, Mr. Keith Gruss is going to be on the show. He wrote a book called Dirt Roads to Runways, Defending the American Dream for the Next Generation. He's also an attorney and a conservative activist. He's a former assistant state attorney and prosecutor for the state of Florida. We'll talk to him about the James Comey charges coming up. Our great friend Sherry Cree is going to come up on the program here a bit, realtor extraordinaire. She'll join us at about 8:45. And then, of course, don't miss this. My brother from a different mother, Jay Ratliff was yesterday. Doug Giles. Doug Giles is going to be on the program at 11 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Mountain Time. Doug Giles on the program on this Friday edition of the show. All right, a couple of things I want to get to here that I haven't gotten to. I do want to read some comments. Anybody surprised? What do you think happens? I guess James Comey is facing 5 years, up to 5 years. Now, here's a question. Roger says, Clapper, it's the least perjurious answer I could give after this testimony to the Senate Intel oversight. You know, one thing I haven't heard, there is an ongoing investigation about conspiracy, a grand conspiracy investigation. And on the charge of lying to Congress and obstruction, the statute of limitations ended on this Tuesday. So they had to get this one under the wire. But supposedly, remember a couple of weeks ago, months ago, it was announced that there's a grand conspiracy investigation. What we don't know is Comey part, and I would assume he is, part of that grand conspiracy investigation. And if that gets any traction, then I think that's where you're going to see some other names. Now, it was Comey who testified and was in his 5-year statute of limitations. There's other people that are supposedly being looked at with grand juries, etc. It was 2 weeks ago that I talked about the grand juries with Michael Letts with InvestUSA.org. And Michael, if you go back on the tape, said, Jimmy, there have been several grand juries convened. It's not just the one in the Eastern District of Virginia. There have been several grand juries that the Justice Department is using right now. And so stand by, hold under your hats. There could be some more indictments coming. They just had to get the Comey one in to fit under the statute of limitation window, which ends Wednesday. But is that all? You say, well, Comey did a lot worse than this. Well, it's possible that there's more coming to Comey if they're in that grand conspiracy, because the statute of limitations, if it's part of a grand conspiracy, as opposed to just him acting alone like he did here, just leaking documents and lying about it, that's an individual charge. The statute of limitations ended Tuesday. But the grand conspiracy, it really expands the calendar date, and you could see some other names: Brennan, Clapper, Comey, Christopher Wray. Are there going to be other people wrapped up here in this grand conspiracy investigation? We're not sure yet, but I didn't hear anybody ask, and I don't know if the Justice Department has had a press conference, but I think that's the next question they need to start asking all the people that have access to the spokespeople. Is that grand conspiracy investigation still going on that was launched by Kash Patel and Pam Bondi a month or so ago? And if that grand conspiracy investigation is still going on, what's the future of that? Where's it at? So I don't think that you may be thinking Comey's going to not get his full justice. Well, maybe any justice is better than none justice for him at this point. But it's also going to be interesting to see if he's wrapped up in a grand conspiracy investigation. So hold on to your hats, kids, because we're just getting started. And it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. All right, good to have you here on the program. I want to remind you that I know a lot of you coming up here soon, as we head towards the end of the month, are going to get a paycheck, and you're going to be looking for things to do with that. Maybe you want to buy gas and groceries, and some of you always, maybe you're going to do write a check to your church. That's always a good thing. But I'd like to invite you to do a couple of things. We always talk about Rivers Promise. You see the name behind us, Rivers Promise, building our school, Legacy Christian Academy in Rwanda. And I always just kind of like to give you a breakdown. Then I'm going to give you something fun you could do with your dollars if you want to. But $10 provides an unsponsored kid a school uniform. That's just $10. $30 feeds a kid 2 meals a day for an entire month. 65 sends them to school, pays their uniform, health insurance, and basic life amenities. That's a full sponsorship. So if you're praying about what to do with that extra money that you have in your pocket, then feel free to go to riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org. Now, coming up in December, we're going to have a big drawing, and it is a drawing and a sweepstakes that we are doing, and I want to show you this beast of a vehicle that you could actually win. The website to do it is win.riverspromise.org. Just see the Rivers Promise? Yeah, put the win in front of it, WIN. And ladies and gentlemen, this is an opportunity for you to do it. Producer Chad, roll the tape, sir. Amazing beast of a vehicle, a Ford Bronco Raptor. It could be yours. All you got to do is enter to win below. And listen, with every entry, you are helping support Rivers Promise as we give hope to children. It's an amazing vehicle, whether you're going to the grocery store, riding through snow, or maybe want to climb up a few rocks. This is a beast, and it could be yours. Sign up to win. Enter to win right below. All right, right below, win.riverspromise.org if you want to do that, .org for that one, win.riverspromise.org. Make sure you sign up on the website and get those sweepstakes tickets, and you're supporting our Legacy Christian Academy efforts. But I do appreciate it. Yesterday, the day before, we got a stack of photos that came in from some newly sponsored kids. Some of you people that watch the show are sponsoring some kids. Appreciate you. And to watch the mail the next probably 3 to 5, 7 business days, you should have a letter. I don't know if letters showed up. I know we have photos. Photos showed up of your children with a thank you note. So we'll get all that to you coming out, and look for it. So if you want to sponsor a kid, go to our website, sponsorship, riverspromise.org, and you'll see the sponsorship tab, and you'll be there. All right, let me welcome in the program our first guest of the morning. He has some legal expertise. He's a former assistant state attorney prosecutor for the state of Florida, served on the Montana National Guard. His name is Keith Gross, and he's written a book. We've had him on before called Dirt Roads to Runways, Defending the American Dream for the Next Generation. Mr. Keith Gross is in the studio. We bring him onto the stage. Keith, welcome back to the show, sir. How are you?
Good to be with you.
Well, let's talk about this indictment. It's a very simple indictment, about 2 pages. Some people speculate they did it narrow because they had to get in the statute of limitations. There could be something more coming outside of that statute. But talk about this indictment of James Comey. Does it look like, is it simple enough that it's pretty simple? Or is it so simple that it's maybe a bad indictment?
Well, no, I think it's appropriately simple. You know, the reality is the crimes he's been indicted for are very simple, objective crimes. You know, it's a matter of looking at the record, seeing what he testified to while he was under oath testifying to Congress, and comparing that to reality. You know, you look at the evidence and you see, did he tell the truth or not? There's not a lot of subjectivity there.
I haven't heard it. I was just asking the question. We know that a couple of months ago or so that Cash Patel Pam Bondi announced that they were opening an investigation into a grand conspiracy. And the grand conspiracy, obviously, there's conspiracy between actors in this thing, and that widens the scope of the statute of limitations. Is it possible? Will we know? Has the Justice Department confirmed how that grand conspiracy investigation is still going on? And could James Comey face some more charges in the grand conspiracy investigation?
He could certainly face additional charges. The Justice Department, I'm sure, is continuing to work behind the scenes and to advance their investigation. That may lead to additional charges. As it stands, the 2 charges that Comey is currently indicted for, each of those charges carry a 5-year prison term potentially. So he's already looking at a pretty significant time in prison if it was taken all the way to the max.
There's evidence that seems to be pretty clear. He testified under oath in Congress that he did not leak anything. And then when he asked by Ted Cruz, did you do it? He said, I stand by my original testimony. Meanwhile, other people are saying, yeah, he authorized me to leak this. He authorized. And then later he came back and said he leaked some information to a friend from Columbia University after he was fired. So the guy's a leaker. Isn't this a pretty open and shut case? But I hear some people are nervous about the Eastern Virginia district, and it may be tough to get a conviction there.
It's going to be about the evidence. I mean, it's black and white. Did he tell the truth or not? That's going to be pretty straightforward. And as you probably can remember, one FBI agent already went to jail for falsifying documents and statements in order to get a warrant from the FISA court to spy on the Trump campaign. So it's clear that there could have been some massive conspiracy underway to undermine President Trump's administration.
Do you think we only see the tip of the iceberg? I mean, do you think Brennan and Clapper, and I heard a guy named James Baker, do you think they're just all like lawyering up if they haven't already, going, uh-oh, I hear the footsteps coming? Does this send shock waves down to their, I would call them co-conspirators and people that had similar viewpoints as Comey?
I would think so, knowing that the wheels of justice are turning, even if they're turning slow. If you were a corrupt politician over the last several years, now would be a time to hire a lawyer quick.
Let me ask you this. Do you think Comey was acting alone? Was he instructed by the president? Was he instructed by the Clintons? Is he the tip of the spear here? Or is he just the puppet, and there's a puppeteer that we're going to have to get to?
I think there's definitely a puppeteer. There's a lot of people involved here. This wasn't a single person taking action. This was a conspiracy with a ton of people involved, with the ultimate goal of subverting the election of the people. I mean, they were spying on a president's campaign, and then they sought to trump up all of these charges against him on false information, and they tried to bend the law to find ways to get Trump. I mean, the whole thing was designed to take away the people's will. We voted for President Trump's first term, and we didn't get most of that term because of all of the undermining that happened.
Yeah, you could go back and you kind of pick the scab off the wound and go, remember that name, Lisa Page, Peter Strzok, Brennan, Clapper. I mean, you hear all these names. It's fascinating to think that they were all working together, not just to destroy Donald Trump personally, but to destroy his effectiveness as the president. Do any of these actions, in your estimation, come down to treason? At which point is this just seen as a treasonous attempt at a coup to drive a guy from office any way you can with fake information and fake news?
I think depending on how the investigation unfolds, it's definitely plausible that this could rise to the level of treason, because they were essentially trying to steal the presidency. This was a coup. Whether it turns out that it's, enough evidence available to prosecute it as treason or not, that's yet to be seen, obviously, but it could certainly rise to that level. And in practical terms, it was treason.
I heard people say yesterday that was a real dark place in American history. And the sad thing is, a lot of folks still aren't willing to recognize. You watch the media coverage of the Comey indictment, and they're making Comey's pretending to be a victim. Am I being hyperbolic? Just kind of a talk show host that leans conservative and voted for Trump 3 different times, that no, this was a dark place. This was probably one of the most sickest and wrongest and dangerous places in American history during my lifetime, that this was a third world type banana republic coup. Is that overstating the severity of what we're facing here?
I don't think so. What we see from the left is that they usually accuse Republicans of exactly what they are doing. And now that they're finally facing some accountability for the real crimes that were committed over the last several years, of course, they want to deflect and say that it's just a political prosecution, that President Trump is going after his enemies. That's not the reality. The reality is we're going after people who committed crimes. The Justice Department is indicting people who committed real crimes. You can contrast that with the fact that when President Trump was being prosecuted, all the lawfare against him was essentially made up crimes. They even had to change the law to make it easier to go after him. They were trying to stretch every definition possible, whereas the Justice Department right now is going after pretty black and white violations of the law.
If you're listening on the podcast version of the program, which happens after the live stream, thousands of earballs. Either way, we'll hear the show by the end of the day. We appreciate you. But the voice, if you're listening to the audio only, is entrepreneur, pilot, attorney, conservative activist. His name is Keith Gross, and he's also a former assistant state attorney and prosecutor for the state of Florida. Did you hear the story that I guess some people in some district of Virginia in the U.S. Attorney's Office signed a letter saying we don't believe we should prosecute? James Comey's son-in-law resigned in protest of this prosecution. What are you hearing about what's happening in the Justice Department? Were there really agents and prosecutors or somebody trying to say, no, don't do this, don't do this? And what should be done in that situation? We've got a swamp. How do we find out who's in it?
Well, we've got to make sure that the swamp gets drained, right? If they were protecting someone from prosecution merely because they felt close to that person, that's wrong. Prosecutorial discretion is not meant to shield your friends. It's meant to make sure that you're bringing forward cases that are worth bringing. I think when a major official sits before Congress under oath and lies to Congress, that's a charge worth bringing. If you've got the facts, you have a duty to the people to bring that charge. And any prosecutor who didn't want to bring that charge for some political purpose, they need to be fired because they shouldn't be making political decisions. They should be bringing charges based on facts.
Let me ask you one more question. It's not related to the Comey conviction, but it is related to January the 6th and the FBI. FBI, Christopher Wray said, I don't think we had any agents. They all lied and said there were no agents. The FBI has now confirmed there were 275 plainclothes undercover agents at the Capitol. That's what we're finding out now. But there's been a lot of lies told about that. Is this another nefarious action of the leadership of the FBI that's going to have to be prosecuted? I mean, is Christopher Wray wondering about footsteps outside of his door right now?
I sure hope so. And he should be, because chalk another one up for the conspiracy theorist. Everybody called this a Fedsurrection from the beginning, because that's just not how Trump supporters generally behave. We don't do that sort of thing. I mean, look at what happened after Charlie Kirk's assassination. No one had to board up their windows. No one city got burned down. There were no riots in the street. There was a peaceful vigil. That's how the right responds to things. And it was pretty clear to anyone with common sense a long time ago that January 6th was a setup. I hope the people that did that will be held accountable. And I think it's implausible that the people at the top didn't know it was happening.
This week, Pam Bondi saw a tweet from President Trump. He said it's supposed to be a private message, but it went out there. Let's get some prosecutions going, or we're going to find somebody who can. Give me your thoughts on this. Is it right for the president to make those types? Some people call them threatening. Pam Bondi, was he out of school there in your estimation as a former prosecutor?
Not at all. You know, a lot of people have this conception because it's become normalized incorrectly for the last handful of decades, where the president tries to stay out of the Justice Department's operations. The Justice Department is independent, they used to tell us. That's not how it's designed. Our founding fathers put the Justice Department under the president's authority. All executive branch agency employees, including Pam Bondi, answer to the president of the United States. And if he doesn't have the authority to supervise and direct his employees, who does? Are they just unaccountable, unelected people? That's not the way this is supposed to work. So if he wants her to go and find whatever he wants her to find, if he wants her to follow the facts and bring prosecutions based on the evidence uncovered, it's perfectly appropriate for him to direct her to do that.
As a former prosecutor, you hear the left crying out about, oh, this is selective prosecution, weaponizing the justice system. Mr. Gross, I never saw the left freaking out about weaponization of the justice system with all those mugshots. They didn't freak out about that. And we're on this list. We're missing Peter Navarro, Steve Bannon. Oh, and Michael Flynn is not on that. These are just people after the election chaos. That's not all the people that were prosecuted. It is interesting to hear the left lose their minds about this prosecution of this is awful. They didn't seem to mind it when the wheels of justice were spinning that towards this direction.
Not at all. And moreover, the crimes that Trump and his associates were charged with were generally made up charges. I mean, they were prosecuting them for trying to investigate what appears to be a stolen election. And I think eventually we'll see evidence come out demonstrating that that election was stolen. We'll chalk up another one for the conspiracy theorists, just like we did today, with the undercover FBI agents essentially causing and orchestrating the January 6th riot.
You've written a book called Dirt Roads to Runways, Defending the American Dream for the Next Generation. You're an entrepreneur, pilot, attorney, and also a former assistant state attorney, prosecutor for the state of Florida. Do the book plug, sir. Dirt Roads to Runways. We've had you on before. I know it's a little bit of your tale in life, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the book is just a tale of growing up in rural North Florida, being raised by people with common sense, and how we can apply that common sense wisdom to the American government today.
I like the phrase defending the American dream for the next generation. Talk about what's threatening that American dream. What do we have to, how do we defend it? Who are we defending it against, sir?
In short, government. The American dream existed because of the fundamental freedoms that we have in America. And through a combination of regulatory actions and excessive legislation, we have been losing that freedom piece by piece for decades now. Couple that with bad foreign trade deals that have undermined the American economy, undermined our ability to run a serious manufacturing sector in this country. The American dream is slipping away, and we've got to restore it if we want future generations to have those opportunities.
I've got a video, and I'll let you go here, but I got a video. I've got to find it. I can't play it today. It's for Virginia Senator Tim Kaine in a congressional hearing, lecturing the other side, saying, you guys over there say that your rights come from God and not government. That's the thing that Iran believes in. Iran believes that. It comes from the government. And Ted Cruz sits down and says, I just heard this and about fell out of my chair. Let me read the Declaration of Independence. Let me read the founding documents. We're endowed with our creator, by our creator with certain unalienable rights. We've gone so far, it's not just young college kids getting indoctrinated. It's sitting U.S. senators, and that guy could have been a vice president of the United States, that think us talking about government doesn't give us our rights for freedom and all the things that we believe in as Americans. He's a U.S. senator, and he doesn't believe this stuff.
It's pretty wild, isn't it? A lot of people don't seem to understand that. A lot of people think our rights come from the Constitution. Now, the Constitution simply prohibits the government from interfering with certain of our natural rights. The Founding Fathers talked extensively about natural rights, though, and we need to start getting back to that idea of protecting our natural rights from government intervention.
Keith Gross is my guest. Dirt Roads to Runways, Defending the American Dream for the Next Generation. I know you have a website. You're on the Twitter or the X, whatever we call it these days. First of all, how do they get the book and how do they follow you?
The book's available anywhere books are sold, at barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com. It's an audiobook on Audible. You can follow me online on pretty much any social media platform at Keith Gross FL. I'm pretty active on X. You can also sign up for the newsletter at keithgross.com.
Keith Gross, GROSS.com, or Keith Gross FL on the Twitter or the X today. Sir, I appreciate you hopping on the program and your analysis on this thing. We'll keep an eye on it and have you back on as time proceeds here. Thank you very much. Again, the name of the book, Dirt Roads to Runways, Defending the American Dream for the Next Generation. Keith Gross is our guest. All right, pleasure to have everybody here on the program. The big news of the day, James Comey has been indicted. You might have heard that. You just heard Keith talking about, who's a former prosecutor himself, that other people might want to be lawyering up. There could be more things coming, especially remember there's a grand conspiracy investigation. I always hate to mention a lot of this stuff because I don't want to get my hopes up too high that justice finally comes, but I'm hopeful that maybe justice is finally coming. You know what's? It's also painful. Also, I keep hearing the story of Comey. I keep hearing people talk about Lisa Strzok, Lisa Page, Peter Strzok, James Brennan. I said, wow, we haven't heard of those names. And I'm guessing they kind of liked that. They thought that they had kind of hidden down in the shadows and buried themselves down in retirement of the private sector. And yet now, with a couple of days left before the statute of limitation, here comes the wheels of justice. They thought they got away just in the nick of time. But it is painful to hear their names. Remember some of the quotes of Peter Strzok and Lisa Page talking about they went to Walmart and saw these Trump voters and it disgusted them. The people that lied about the Hunter Biden laptop, Brennan Clapper, and these intelligence people in the world of national intelligence, all these people that have done a lot of damage to not just the government itself, but our trust in the government, our ability to actually trust the government, and also brought around even a higher level of partisanship than we probably would have had. These people need to be held accountable, and I'm hoping this is the first drop in that bucket. We shall see. We'll find out. All right. Good morning. It's Friday edition of the show, and we do every Friday. We have instituted a wonderful new segment with Sherry Cree, realtor extraordinaire. I talk about her every day, homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. And last week she gave some advice, and I'd never thought of this, just the practicality of the practicality of if you're going to sell your home maybe January, February, March, springtime. In Colorado, your house doesn't green up until May or June. So now's the time to even do real estate photography. See, this is when you got to have an outside person give you some thoughts. I never thought of it. I've been quoting that all week to people here on the show. Let me bring in for a weekly segment Sherry Cree. Her website is homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. Good morning, Sherry. How are you?
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you back here. I appreciate. I know it was kind of. I think we'll call this part one, but there's a lot of folks that decide that homes are like cars for sale by owner. You see some of that sometimes. I know there's some online websites that they will supposedly list your home for you and put a sign out there, and it's kind of a DIY, do-it-yourself project. Some people say, well, man, I'm going to save some money if I do that. So from a seller's perspective, convince us, what does a real estate agent do, and why might that real estate agent be much more effective and help you out more than a do-it-yourself website or a paper sign that's just on the window for sale by owner? Help the seller understand why real estate agents need it.
Yes. So I just interviewed for a listing this week, and it is for the sale in March. And I thought the homeowner was very smart to reach out to real estate professionals and start interviewing who to hire as a listing agent. Because with time, we have so much we can offer to help the seller optimize their sale with the listing preparation or market assessment. So the seller will be fully informed, educated, and know what they're doing with the sale. So when I go into a listing appointment, listing interview, as you know, the real estate agents are all independent contractors. So we don't have like company healthcare or things like that typical employee does. So every day is a job interview, because if we don't get a client, we don't have any work to do. We need to have a client who trusts us to represent their interest in the sale or buy of the property. And that's when our job actually starts. So when I go into interview, first thing I tell the homeowner is confidentiality. I think so many agents take it so lightly. And as a potential listing agent for the homeowner, I always say everything we discussed today will be remaining confidential, whether you list with me or list with somebody else. And we have a legal obligation to disclose anything about the house that we gain knowledge of, but we have a confidentiality responsibility to our clients about them. Why are they selling? What they're going through, what's doable, what's not doable. So that's really foundation for our clients to honestly communicate with their sales. So without their honest information, we cannot represent them well.
And so somebody maybe they're selling because of distress, maybe a job change, maybe they need to sell quick, but they don't want the buyers to know they got to sell quick. They don't want anybody to know that they're, so you want to be able to trust that realtor that is not going to go, hey man, you got to look at this house. They're really desperate to sell this thing. But you're saying that some real estate agents, maybe not purposefully, but they have looser lips than maybe they should in conversation. I'm sure you've experienced that. Someone tells you something about somebody, you're like, oh yeah, I probably shouldn't know that.
Yes, we're all sales professionals, and we have a tendency to say too much. So I always, remind myself, less is better. If there's no particular reason to disclose any information or comment, it's always better. And when there are times that it is beneficial for my clients to disclose certain element of situation to make sure the negotiation works out, and then I always ask the seller, hey, here's a situation. I think it's beneficial for us to explain what you're going through in order to, reach agreement. Do I have authorization? And another situation that agents say too much is open houses. And because the properties are sitting on the market longer now with a slower market, you see a lot of open house signs, especially during the weekends. And I have, got a client out of open houses, multiple open houses that I hosted. And I knew who they were because they came to many open houses that I hosted because they were looking in the area that I was representing listings. But they were not my clients. They were open house visitors. And then all of a sudden I get a phone call from them and saying, Sherry, we are at the open house of, something else. We found the house we want to put an offer in, and then we have to sell our current house, and I want you to be our agent. And okay, great. I get to work. And the first step as a buyer's agent is to get the intel, reach out to the listing agent and get an intel about as much as possible of the situation. And then they had all the intel because they were at the open house, they're applying, and then listing agent there disclosed everything about the seller that later was very disadvantageous to the sellers in our negotiation. And then the reason they called me was, Sherry, I've been to many of your open houses. You're always professional. We tried, but you never disclose anything about the seller situation that we wanted to, be nosy about. And they said, for our sale of a home, I don't want the agent who tells everything so that we are disadvantaged.
So this was a couple went to another open house, and the person starts spilling the beans on the seller. They're like, whoa, we want the house, but we're not going to use you because Sherry at least keeps some secrets and you're airing it all out. That's not good. These are all things that I don't think people think of. I think people think, well, the realtor will help me price it right. They can help me with some staging, but just a little advice like taking the photos now, because your house is not going to be green again soon until maybe May. Do those photos now, because you said you've got an interview for a couple that wants to sell in February, March, or springtime, but they're talking to you now. But man, there's just so many little things out there that you got to have that right real estate agent. And I was always surprised. I saw some of these websites. I don't know if there's big anymore, but they would send you a sign and you put it up and they'll market it on their website. But man, there's nothing like having an agent that you can shake their hand and call them and say, hey, here's the deal. What's going on? I mean, that's a whole different realm of things. And sometimes in that your home's your biggest investment ever for the most part, real estate is. You don't want to be shortcutting that one. You don't want to be, I'm going to save a percentage point on a commission. You might want to, you may get a lot more and make that up.
Yeah. On the note of the commission, I see that all the time. Consumer looking for a cheap agent. They don't say that up front, but they are looking for how much is your commission. And then I say, it's negotiable. Can I meet with you and preview your home and explain what service I offer before we discuss commission? And no, I just want to find an agent who I cannot afford the agent commission. I want somebody do it for less. Yeah. And then there are discount model, or there are agents who provide discounts. In fact, I offer veterans and law enforcement discount for all my clients on listing, and then clients don't have to ask for the discount. I do offer that kind of discount, with the appreciation for their service, but there are, discount being offered so that agent can actually job for offering a lower commission. And if you think about it, if the agent doesn't even negotiate for their worth of their service, how much they're gonna negotiate, do you think, to represent you in a sales transaction? They don't even, justify their worth, and then consumer get disappointed after working with the cheap agent, and then, I don't think, they worked hard for me, or, I had to bend over backwards to agree to everything on the other side for the sale. So you don't want that kind of experience. You really get what you pay for.
Another great point by Sherry. I'll be thinking of that all week, that all of a sudden you're going, wait, you didn't even stand up for your own self and negotiate strong for you. You're sure as heck not going to negotiate strong for me. I was thinking I just booked some flights to Africa, and I'm thinking I could have got a cheaper airfare, but you would have seen the airplane I would have to take. I'm like, no, I'll pay more for this airplane over here and this airline. And it's that way in life and business. Sometimes the old adage, you get what you pay for. And just because it's the cheapest path to Rwanda, where I'm going, it doesn't mean it's the safest or the best. And I might want to pony up a couple of extra bucks. Sherry, the interest rate announcements came last week. Have you noticed an uptick in listings, an uptick in calls? Has anything changed in the last week as far as the market, especially here in Colorado?
Yes. So as a real estate agent, what we pay attention is the mortgage loan application numbers. And last week, the number of mortgage loan application for purchase, not the refi, refi increased up to, refi numbers went up too, but the mortgage application numbers for purchase, home purchase, went 20% up compared to the prior week. So definitely that's a great indicator of buyers are applying for the loan to buy a house. So we'll see how it goes.
20% increase week over week's that's not shabby. It's not at all. Call Sherry. Again, you heard her talk. She's already talking to people about springtime. Some of you may need to sell or buy right now, but even if you're thinking of next year, it's just months away, and now's the time to start doing that interview, little practical things like helping the photography, getting the green, the flowers that are still blooming at your house. That'd be fantastic. That could help you sell. Homeswithsherry.com. You'll see it on the screen here in just a second. Home there. Oh, poof, just like that. Homeswithsherry.com. Homeswithsherry.com. Reach out to her and have that conversation. Again, there's not an obligation. She calls it an interview. You call her, you meet together, you have an interview, and she may not want to work with you. Or you may not want to work with her, or it may be connection, love at first sight, and off you'll go and to make some money. And I tell Sherry every week, I say Sherry's goal with all the business acumen and all the perception is she really is working to earn the right to become your realtor for life. It's not just about this transaction. It's getting the buyer, the seller in the position that this was a great experience. I made money. This was a great investment. We ever do this again, we're calling Sherry.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what we tell them. Sherry Cree, homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. Reach out to her. Again, I'm going to give you, if there's an area that she thinks she has somebody else, she'll refer you to someone else. But I'm just saying that I-25 corridor in the Denver, northern Colorado, down to, Highlands Ranch, Park Meadows. Don't hesitate. Parker, Aurora, all those areas. Go give her a call, have that conversation. And again, you probably have a couple people that you know that are realtors or in the business and stuff. And, sometimes, sometimes it's best to just pick someone that's not in your friend group because you have 5 people competing. But I think you'll find Sherry's going to be the best of the best for you. Homeswithsherry.com, 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 and make sure that you tell her, make sure you tell her that you heard about her on the program, homeswithsherry.com. All right, everybody, good to have you here on the show. Jaime Lagos is my name. James Comey has been indicted. That's our breaking story of the day. Was anybody surprised? Will you be surprised if anything actually becomes of it? Do you think other people are going to go down in a blaze of glory? What say you? What do you think about, remember Lisa Page, Peter Strzok, James Clapper, Jim Brennan, James Baker? There's all these people in the Department of Justice that seemingly could now also have the eyes of the Justice Department looking up on them. There's another one that I think you got to pay attention to. The Gateway Pundit has a story that the FBI has confirmed after lying under oath. Christopher Wray said he didn't think there were really agents on the January the 6th insurrection. No, there were 275 plainclothes FBI agents, which lends credence to the fact that it was called early on a Fedsurrection. And I think our earlier guest from Florida, Keith Gross, came on and said, you know what? We showed as conservatives how we behave in certain instances after the Charlie Kirk assassination. We go into prayer. We go into fasting. We go into vigils. We come together as a community and weep for our nation. And what you saw on January the 6th was very counterintuitive to how conservatives act. So could it be, I say, hark, that these 275 agents were provocateurs and the January the 6th events? And why does it just now, 5 years later, that the FBI is coming out and saying, yeah, we had some agents there? All right. Just all questions, your thoughts, welcome in the chat room. And again, thousands of people will hear the show, see the show throughout the course of the day. Don't forget, go to your podcast platform and listen, like it, and all that stuff. iHeart, Spotify, Apple Podcast. And of course, we have about 5 or 6 different feeds at Twitters and things like that. They're live, but go back and listen to the audio version. All right, let me bring into the program my brother from a different mother, Mr. Doug Giles, douggiles.org. Doug, I think Monday, my Charlie Kirk print from you is going to be here. It's I did the tracking It's going to be right here, and I'll hold it up Monday on the show and say people ought to get one of these.
Beautiful. How you doing, Jimmy?
Doing well, sir. Doing well. You've got another Charlie Kirk piece that you just finished as well. You're up to 2 now or 3?
I got 2. So I've got the one that you bought, Revelation 14:13. It talks about blessed are those who die in the Lord, who cease from their hard work, and that their works will follow them. And which is a great reminder. You know, people bemoan Charlie's death, which again, it's horrible, but it's biblical. And also, man, he crammed a lot of life in those 31 years. And so with all the young people saying, you know, that they want to imitate Charlie, that print would be great for their dorm room or their bedroom, you know, as a reminder, you know, to be forthright, work hard, and those good works. When you take the big dirt nap and you spring off this mortal coil, they'll follow you. Yeah, there it is, right there.
There it is. That's coming to my house. It's going to be the house on Monday. I think the UPS tracking said. So I look forward to having that here. Doug,
Yeah, the other one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the other one I did was it was out of Romans 1, verse 16, where Paul said he's not ashamed of the gospel, for it's the power of God unto salvation to the Jew first and also the Greek. And again, it's got, you know, this great portraiture of Charlie, and then underneath his chin on the top of his shirt, it says, "Be bold." And that's what we need, man. We need Christians like Charlie with brains, Jimmy, and balls. And that are bold, wild, and free, and that beats the stuffing out of being, you know, scared, mild, and enslaved.
Let's talk about that. There's a lot of people that have been saying, I want to live like Charlie. Robert F. Kennedy talked about his granddaughter going off to college in Europe. She saw prominently, got to get the Bible in there. They said, why so urgent on the Bible? I want to live like Charlie. There's young men out there that are saying, I want to live like Charlie. I've seen photos on Instagram of people popping up card tables and having discussions all across America. You've written an article, or a column, I should say, about if you really want to imitate Charlie, here's how you're going to do it. I want to get into that because a lot of folks are looking for the answer. How can I be more like Charlie? Because Charlie wanted to be more like Jesus. And Jesus said, hey, it's been said in the Bible, follow me as I follow Christ. So it's okay to follow a guy's example. And he set an example.
Yeah. I would say to the young squabs out there that want to lather, rinse, and repeat, you know, Charlie's impact in the culture. Again, you know, these are calls from God. So I get the sentiment. Charlie was one of one. But anyway, if you want to be a serious believer and a force and not a farce for Christ and his gospel, number one, read a physical, not digital Bible in public. That will make the liberals' heads explode. So get you a nice New American Standard or an ESV or whatever translation that you dig, as long as it's legit. And read it in public, man, and see what happens. Carry that bad boy with you on campus. So instead of just looking at your phone and looking at Bible verses, get a physical copy and open it up, you know, in the quad and see what happens. I'll tell you what will happen, Jimmy. Here's what's going to happen. So if it's a dude. If you got a young dude and he's doing that, he's got a nice black leather Bible and he's freaking reading it, highlighting it, making notes in the margin, some hot and holy chick is going to see him that he's got cojones, and she's going to have the urge to merge with that bold brother, and they will get married at an early age and have 15 kids or something like that.
Be like Charlie.
Yeah.
That's a Charlie model. But by the way, I want to get some more of these points. But the other day, I've been on my iPad and my iPhone. I've kind of gone digital with the Bible. So the other day, I found my favorite leather Bible that I hadn't. I have another Bible that's hardbound, but this was the translation I like. I got this old leather one out. I said, "Oh, this is my Bible. I got to start using this. Forget this digital stuff. I was doing what you're talking about." I opened it up, Doug, and I couldn't see it. I realized I think I've gone blind in the last 12 months. I'm like, oh, shite. I can't see the words here. Back to the digital version where I can expand it.
Yeah, I've got one of those grandpa, you know, ultra large print Bible that, you know, that you can read like the top letter of an eye chart, you know. And it's a time's a cruel mistress, Jimmy, as we.
I'm telling you, yeah. All right.
Yeah,
You've got other biblical habits of people. If you want to live like Charlie and imitate Charlie, it's not just about wearing a shirt that says freedom and a 47 hat or a red hat. There's really more to his life than that. Let's dive in some more, sir.
Yeah, you got to deep dive the scripture. You got to read the Bible all the time. And the powers of darkness are going to assault you, young squire, constantly. So you've got to learn that book from front to back, soup to nuts, from the table of contents to the maps. And, you can't be a casual Christian and be like Charlie. Because that dude, man, Jimmy, when he opened his mouth, it was like drinking from a frickin' fire hose. And so if the Christian wants to be like Charlie, then get busy, man. And we're talking about a lifetime of intense studying. Again, if you want to be a force for God instead of a farce, then you can't dilly-dally in regards to knowing the scripture. And Christ said, if you're kind of like half in, half out, he said in Revelation 3, verse 16, I believe, yes, I'm correct, that you make Jesus want to vomit. So go all in. So if you're going to be like Charlie, then go all in. Devour, eat the scroll, like God told Ezekiel. So Ezekiel's going to start his ministry, Jimmy. It's like, what do I do? Do I learn marketing? Do I get on Instagram? Do I do a newsletter? And he goes, no, I want you to eat. I want you to devour the word of God.
There's a starting point. There's no logo. You don't have a logo yet?
Right.
A mailing list?
Yeah, that's how stupid we are. And again, Charlie wasn't like that, man. He ate the scripture. Here's another thing that I didn't include in this list. Charlie hung out with old cats that had been there and done that and had all the T-shirts. He wasn't just hanging around his peers, because peers can't, a lot of peers, they can't really challenge you. That can't take you down the road in a serious manner. And that's why, Charlie had, these powerful older mentors in his life. And that's why I hate youth groups. I think they're stupid. I think they're unbiblical, because it's age segregation, Jimmy. They separate young people from the older patriarchs, prophets, warriors, and wild men. And so they're with peers on a constant basis. And the only old guy that they have in their life, if they're like in their teens or early 20s, is the frickin' Crispin, the youth leader, whose hair puts the gel in evangelical, and he's imitating Justin Bieber and not John the Baptist. I think that's bullshit. Listen, if I was a young guy out there, I would be looking for the hoary hair men of God in my congregation. Again, like I said, who've been there, done that, got a closet full of T-shirts, got demons hanging on the wall that they've slaughtered. They know the faithfulness of God. They know the power of God. They know the path of God. They've faced persecution, resistance, and God has never forsaken them. And he's always been triumphant in Christ. That's the cat that I want to talk to. Again, I don't want to talk to Crispin.
I watching the Charlie Kirk coverage the day of and around it. I saw a couple of online arguments because they would introduce, this was people, 2 or 3 guys spoke. I'm Charlie Kirk's pastor. I'm Charlie Kirk's pastor. And what that meant is, as a young man, Charlie had reached out. He attended church in Phoenix. He had a great pastor friend from California. He had 2 or 3 older guys that, as a young man, he said, "You're my pastor. You're my spiritual advisor. You're my spiritual mentor." And it's unusual. Shoot, I know grown-ass men that, don't necessarily know who they would go to or have a pastor that they could lean into. But here's Charlie seeking him out, and he's got 2 or 3 powerhouses that are speaking. They're his pastor. He was seeking their wisdom.
Yeah, and he's putting himself under their accountability also. It's not, again, when people say, "I want to be like Charlie," it's like, are you under accountability? Who's speaking into your life? Who's rebuking you? Who's bringing you to speed in regards to the scripture? So again, I get it, and I love the sentiment, and the memorial service. I sat there, moist-eyed for 6 hours, Jimmy. I mean,
damn allergies, man. Those damn allergies were bad that day. It's awful.
Yeah, that oak pollen will get you, you know, especially when they're worshiping God. You know, you got 200,000 people, and Marco Rubio's preach of the gospel like I've never even heard that cat even mention God. And that's like,
it was crazy.
Wow. Yeah, you can tell he wasn't doing it off the prompter too. There's unction, as we used to say in charismatic circles.
Yeah, the unction. You got the unction.
Hey, Jimmy, let me go rogue and dark on you for a second. I'm hearing right now that there was no autopsy ordered on Charlie. No autopsy. And again, this is, I don't know if it's official, but that's insane. Like, people like, well, that sounds conspiratorial. Hell yeah, it does. Who doesn't order an autopsy on the assassination of probably the most famous young Christian political activist in the country? No autopsy. And then the coroner said, well, he had magic bones. He was really fit, you understand? And when the bullet entered his neck, it was stopped by one of his werewolf bones. It's like, are you kidding me? You're talking to a hunter. I've hunted with 30-06s all my life. I've watched the terminal wound channel that a 180 grain 30-06 bullet coming in at 2,900 feet per second with 2,700 foot-pounds. I've seen what it does to moose and elk and kudu. And you mean to telling me that 8 inches of fleshy neck and little bones froze that round in his neck? Show it to me. Show me the bullet. And again, show me the autopsy report. Again, how come or there was no autopsy ordered? Brother, this smells like crap. It sounds like we're being lied to. That 30-06, if that's the gun that was used, which I doubt it, it would have nearly taken his head off. And again, I'm no fool. I've hunted with those guns a lot, and they have exit wounds, vicious exit wounds.
The voice of Doug Giles, DougGiles.org. You can read the latest piece we're talking about at DougGiles.net, but everything's just look up Giles. He ain't hard to find. Doug, people want to get that piece of art, that Charlie Kirk, Not Ashamed of the Gospel art or the Revelation art. They can do that. Everything they can find at DougGiles.org, but they could go to DougGiles.art also, correct?
Yep, and if they use the promo code FIRST, FIRST 20, FIRST 20, they get 20% off.
First 20 and be like Jimmy and get a copy of the Charlie Kirk print. That's what mine shows up Monday. I will display it here on the program. Doug Giles, it's always a pleasure. One more quick question on the Charlie Kirk piece you wrote about being like Charlie. In the headline of it, you put depopulate hell. I think that's an important part. Sometimes we Christians aren't really worried about that depopulating hell. In other words, we're not as, quote, evangelical as perhaps we should be in reaching out or leading other people to Christ.
Yeah, we need to start a new movement called Big Mouths for Jesus. Nobody's safe around me. I preach to everything, I preach to my lion, I preach to my landscaper. Everybody gets preached to. Like when I first got converted, bro, when we would go through drive-up windows and get der Wiener Schnitzel or whatever we were harming our bodies with back in those days, they got an earful. And I wasn't obnoxious about it. It's like, hey man, do you know that Jesus loves you and he died for your sin? And if you repent and believe, you can be saved. He'll transform your life. And if you don't, then know it right now that you're rejecting God. And we saw Jimmy, my wife and I probably put 200 new Christians into our church, and it was all on campus,
Yeah. And by the way, could I have onions on the Wiener Schnitzel while you repent?
I did those chili cheese dogs, and man, I can still smell that chili and that cheese. But I tried it the other day when I was going down to San Antonio. And I've been on a pretty strict carnivore diet for nearly a year. Brother, that didn't work. That tasted great.
That's where you're hoping. I hope I find a hotel lobby and not a truck stop that I have to go to.
Oh my God, man. I was hauling ass back home. I'm telling you that much.
DougGiles.org. I appreciate you, brother. Always good to hear from you. And go read this piece about being like Charlie. If you really want to be like Charlie, it's more than just wearing the T-shirt, kids. You got to be like Charlie in a lot of ways, and part of that starts with that Bible. You know, that Bible that I pulled out a couple of days ago. I have another Bible that's next to the bed, and I have another one that is right over here on my right. And they, I guess, have bigger print, but I haven't looked at them in a while because I've used my iPad and my phone. Even at church, I use the digital thing. So I've tried to, but I opened up my favorite Bible. It's a Thompson Chain Reference Bible. You know how fancy those are. If you know Bibles, Thompson Chain, one of my favorite style of Bible. And the translation, I think it's an ESV, but nevertheless, I open it and I'm like, I'm going to read the Bible. And the Thompson Chain has chain references that link you to different topics, stories, and scriptures. Sorry to geek out on you. So I opened it up and I'm like, and then I still had to get the phone out and use my phone as a magnifying glass. So Brother Jimmy might need to buy himself a larger print Bible. But I love that Bible. That was a gift of a friend of mine back in a crazy time of my life. It was a gift. The inscription's still there. I'll tell that story sometime. I've got the Bible, but I could see it. I wasn't like a blank page, but I'm like, oh, that's going to hurt to see that. Fortunately, yeah. Anyway, old guy problems. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a pleasure. Jim says I had to remove my Bible from my office at Colorado State University because it offended a couple of unnamed coworkers. Well, maybe take it off the shelf. I don't know how you responded to that, Jim, but maybe every day you walk in with your lunch pail and the Bible sits next to the lunch pail. I'm sorry, it's just my lunchtime reading. That's all I'm going to do. That doesn't seem right, Jim. Doesn't seem right at all. All right, glad to have you here on the program. Developing stories throughout the day is James Comey has been indicted. I think you all know that, and we're going to see how this all pans out. I'm sure the Department of Justice is going to say a little bit more about this today. And also breaking news that Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the United Nations, and Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the nation and the United Nations and said, hey, guys, you got to stop rewarding Hamas and these terrorists. And he said, hey, guys, the war ends. You surrender these hostages and you give them back to us, dead or alive, and you just surrender and get the heck out of Dodge. The war's over. He says it's over. That's all we need to do. So he laid out the groundwork for peace, and we'll see if the terrorist, radical Islamicists take that. So far, they haven't, but let's see if they do. Also, the bombshell that I think is going to be very interesting as you wonder for the Department of Justice for another shoe to drop is Christopher Wray and others clearly said that there were not plants of FBI agents out in the January the 6th insurrection, but actually there were. FBI is now cooperating. There were at least 274 plainclothes agents. And they also, now here's the key, and I'll wrap up with this. They also claimed that they were used later as political pawns. No joke. They said later on they were used as pawns. I'll put the story out because I don't have time to get into it right now. And we'll come back and talk about this because I think this is a big one. That's another lie that we've been told to by the Justice Department, Merrick Garland and Joe Biden and all we've been lied to about January the 6th so bad. And that's why they had to pardon the January the 6th committee. And James Comey's like, why didn't I get one of those preemptive pardons as well? Well, James, sorry, you're out of luck. That's all I can say. All right, here we go. Let's do Meme Roulette and wrap it up on a Friday. Don't forget to give donations if you could to Rivers Promise, riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com. Would love to have you participate there. We really, really, really would love to have you there. And again, it's $10. I mean, every little bit makes a difference, and we appreciate your generosity. Some of you have been sponsoring children lately. Just go to sponsorship. With a little glitch in the sponsorship page. It got reorganized yesterday. It's some cute kids, man, that need sponsors, and it's a great thing. RJ says, love that Bible, best I've ever read. The Thompson Chain, if you don't know what Thompson Chain Study Bible is, it literally is for the study years, and it's got all the columns have references, and it's like a reference to, let's say, the word redemption. And you look up, there's a redemption. You go to it gives you a number, you go to the back of the Bible, and it gives other verses that use the same original word, because, the Bible wasn't written in English. I know that's shocking to some people, Greek and Hebrew, etc. So it goes back and say, okay, the word that you hear was also used in these other places in Scripture in the same way. For instance, word love. We have one English word for love. The Greeks had a lot of words for love. They had eros, which was a sexual, erotic love. They had lots of different words. If you love a hamburger, it was different than eros. You don't eros a hamburger, that's sexual. Well, unless you're sick. But they also had this word agape. And agape is unconditional, never ending, over and over again, and never quits love. And that's when the Bible translates into English love, that God so loved the world. He actually translated it from the word agape. It was agape. It wasn't eros love. It was agape love. It wasn't phileo love, which is a kind of conditional love. I love you as long as you keep your end of the deal. No, agape was all-encompassing. So anyway, the Thompson Chain Reference Bible is my favorite. I just couldn't see the print anymore. I got to work on that. I don't know. Maybe glasses are my future. I took the eye test and they said they're optional for me. They said readers. So maybe I need to get me some sexy readers. That sounds old, doesn't it? I'm in denial. Anyway, the Thompson Chain Reference Bible. Yeah, our Lois said agape. Yeah, see, agape love. I just did the little Bible study there for you. No, the Bible wasn't written in English. I used to teach some of this stuff, my friends, and a lot of folks think it's written in English. So they say, well, the same words here is the same words there. No. You got to go back to the Hebrew or the Greek, and you got to figure it out. Well, I don't know Hebrew and Greek. Well, that's why you got to get a good study Bible that will help you outline this and figure it out. And if nothing else, you'll be like Charlie, and you get a pastor or a mentor that can hold you accountable and kind of help you with that. Enough said. All right, let's do meme roulette. That was not on the script there, was it? Round and around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Here's the meme for you. I got to blow this up. Again, I can't see it. Did you know that peptides every year in the U.S. supposedly are the number one cause of acute liver failure? Kill nearly 500 people, send 56,000 to the ER, 26,000 to the hospital, trigger over 100,000 poison control calls. Just kidding. That wasn't peptides. It was Tylenol. You know, there is a warning label on the Tylenol for a reason. There's a warning label on everything. And there's some medicines you shouldn't take. You shouldn't take some medicine if you're going to drive, right? So I don't know why these crazy people get upset that they say, hey, maybe back off the Tylenol while you're pregnant. That's it. Don't drink your NyQuil if you're also taking a Benadryl. I mean, there's rules about medicine and how they interact with their body. And just because Donald Trump said what Tylenol company said about maybe you lay off the sushi and the Tylenol when you're pregnant, they go crazy. These people aren't grounded in science. They're grounded in delusion and hatred. Round and around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Just a reminder that obesity kills way more people than gun violence, but there's still no march to end it, which ironically would very literally help end it. Guns kill people. So does fatness. Believe me, I'm trying to lose weight here. Round and around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Mike Hart, medical doctor, says pregnant women making videos swallowing Tylenol are signaling that they hate Donald Trump more than they love their unborn child. Isn't that amazing? That's exactly what they're signaling. They have such hatred in their heart that they would risk and sacrifice an unborn child on the altar of political hatred. Disgusting. Round and around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Dad, if socialism doesn't work, why do some people still support it? Because they don't work either, son. That's good advice from a father. That's wisdom. They don't work either. That's why they support socialism. Round and around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. This of the Babylon Bee. Americans return to not watching Jimmy Kimmel by choice. I saw so many stories hit my news feed. Jimmy Kimmel had record ratings on his return. Who cares? Everybody knew there's going to be bigger ratings that night. It's what's going to be happening this week and next week at Jimmy Kimmel, and it's going to be back in the toilet, back in the keister, because no one wants to watch that untalented son of a gun spew his hatred of Donald John Trump and the MAGA supporters out there, that he was so willy-nilly without having been called out, he would have let it stand, the accusation that we killed Charlie Kirk. That's how disgusting of a human he is, and I'm not going to watch it. A lot of folks won't. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. We have milked the meme machine dry. Hey, I mentioned River's Promise. I mentioned our donation. I want to remind you this as I take off here today. I'll be back here Monday morning, out of town over the weekend, but I'll be back here Monday morning for the television or the show, the stream show. Like us on all the podcast platforms and all that stuff. Listen again. Like, subscribe. We're hard to get accurate numbers in the stream world, but we're working our best off. And if you'd like to sponsor the show, be a part of the program, info@jimmylakey.com. Also, I mentioned that I bought a ticket to Rwanda. I'm going there in several weeks, I'll be over there for a period of time, and I'll do the show as best as possible when I'm there. But I do want to let you know that this coming February, we announced this at our golf tournament. We are contemplating and putting together a trip for any of you that have ever dreamt of going to Rwanda. Seeing the work of Rivers Promise, one of our next public trips, we do public trips all the time, is going to be in February. Email us, info@JimmyLakey, if you're interested in it. Probably not as much as you think to go, but it's probably more impacting than you'll ever dream. It could be a bucket list. Those silverback gorillas, you want to see those. They're a little bit extra, but they're amazing. And anyway, email us if you'd like to travel in February to Rwanda. We're going to be over there. That's our next public trip. And we'll give you the price of the airfare, the travel, the itineraries, etc. as they come together. info@riverspromise.com or info@JimmyLakey. Just do info@JimmyLakey.com and we'll get it to me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, God bless you. God bless America. Have a great weekend. Thank you, producer Chad. I'll see you on the flip side. God bless you. God bless America. Jimmy Lakey. Peace.